Get DryerBuzz on SoundCloud and YouTube to hear snippets from the show. It's all about the buzz with DryerBuzz on News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Call us at 404-892-2703 on News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
Well into this debate. We are well into this debate. And what I said at the top of the hour, the child support, it's fighting words. It's fighting words. We asked the question. The initial question was, child support, are they fighting words or not? News and Talk 1380 WAOK. I'm Yalanda Lattimore and the editor of DryerBuzz. And you probably just got out of church, rushing to your car. I need you to get online on social media, filter it out using the hashtag DryerBuzz. But tell somebody you know that's going through this situation that they can listen, that we have some resources and conversations, and the phone lines are open for your questions and comments as well. Advocating for fathers, also for mothers as well, because we're trying to figure this whole thing out. And we have attorney Precious Felder in here with us. We have Dr. Torri J. Evans-Barton. She said we can go ahead and call her Dr. Barton. In with us today, and Torri represents Fatherless Generation, and her organization reunites fathers, which means that she has to listen to fathers every day who desperately are seeking to see and spend time with their children. What we're trying to do, again, we do want to clarify language and all that, which is why, we're taking our time with this, which is why we didn't just loop all of everything. We specifically today, this Sunday, want to talk about how this issue affects the unwed, because it is a large portion of cases that we see today, because y'all ain't getting married. But it is a large portion of that. But Precious, you wanted to say something to our earlier comments.
Yes, I do want to clarify. Our caller didn't want me to misconstrue.
We don't want him to misconstrue what you said.
Right, I don't want him to misconstrue what I said. Neither do I want the listeners to misconstrue what I said. A birth certificate, it's not a legal document in terms of evidence in establishing paternity in order to legitimize your child. Nevertheless, it's a very important element in establishing paternity and arguing for legitimation. And that's what I was saying in the beginning when we spoke about legitimation earlier. I listed what are some of the ways to establish paternity. Birth certificate is a way to establish paternity. It's not a legal document per se. Nevertheless, I would encourage you, if you're a father and you're trying to legitimize your child, to sign that birth certificate. It's very important. And then moving forward, there's an acknowledgement of legitimation that can be done, and there's a paternity test that can be done. So those are the ways to establish paternity.
And we have to realize that you're going to go to court, obtain legitimation, but you didn't sign the birth certificate.
Right.
What is the judge going to think? That's how you have to think.
Exactly.
And that's what you were initially saying. I have seen situations where judges are irritated, flat out irritated over the fact that you did not sign the birth certificate, which means you are not trying to accept responsibility. So it is the, like Attorney Precious said, it is the initial step. It is not the legally binding document. It is the initial step. And it's one that if you have a child that is going to be born any day now and you are not married, please sign the birth certificate.
We talked earlier about tactics that parents use because they know they are heading into situations that this is going to be a court situation, and not allowing a person to sign a birth certificate is a tactic that people use. Having the baby and not notifying the father, and not giving him a chance. So if he doesn't get a chance to sign it at the hospital, what can he do after that? Once it's filed, what is
it's legitimation.
He may
that's
want
where
to
you are.
Legitimize at that point.
But I would even put a situation in place. You can do a paternity test before the baby is born, or immediately once the baby is born, so that you are clear that you were signing a birth certificate that this child belongs to you.
Because first and foremost, you're fighting the perception that you don't have enough desire to be the parent in that case, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so knowing that you're going to have, you're going into a difficult situation. You know that.
And if you wait until the child is 10, 11, or 12 or whatever, the child's over 3 years old in Georgia, it's not a good situation.
It's not a good situation.
No. And you're trying to now legitimate? Where you been? That becomes the question. Where have you been?
Okay, so you're fighting from that perspective.
Yes.
And that's a good point when you bring up the age of the child and how how often you've been in the child's life, since up to the day that you're legitimizing, the court views that as abandonment. There's actually case law that says the father does have a constitutional right to legitimize the child, but it depends on the circumstances. They'll look at, was he involved during the pregnancy? They'll look at, was he at the hospital when the baby was born?
Really?
Yes. And then they'll look at, obviously, has he supported the child up until now at all? Has he visited the child up until now at all? All those things are very important considerations that the court will address.
Now, what about in situations where you do have men say that they've tried to see their children, they've tried to send funds, for their kids, and
they get returned,
they get returned, and but yet they get in front of, because the judge is going to go based on what's on paper first, because the attorney is going to say this in one situation and the opposing attorney in this situation. So what does somebody in that situation do?
Can I give you an example
Sure.
of something I have going on? Father, mother meet in college. He's a basketball player, NCAA, doing great.
Okay.
Graduate from college, they go their separate ways. He does everything he can to make sure he's still connected to his daughter because she moves back home. They're in school in Denver. She moves back home to Ohio. He is now he's in Texas, but he was in New Mexico. We find out from her best friend, who she's no longer friends with, is that she has now been sending all of the publishing that needs to be, there's documents that you need to publish when you can't find the other party.
Okay.
So she's been sending them to an old address. She's been putting it in a newspaper where she knows he does not live. And then we find out, now that we're not playing that game and we have attorneys in place to help him, the attorney ends up calling him, not the attorney we have in place for him, calling him, asking him to give up all of his rights because her new husband or husband-to-be wants to adopt the baby. And they say they will cancel any arrearage that he has in child support. Now, I just didn't see that as right. He finally won the custody case this past Thursday to have visitation with his daughter, but they really wanted him to give up all of his rights. And he said, well, I want her to have access to me and to him. I want him to be influenced. So should I do that? And I said, I want you to do your own research. I don't want you to take it from me or the attorney, because I'm telling you, the moment you sign over and let him adopt that child, you have no rights. You are terminated as a father. And
We don't see that often in African American cases.
This is
Okay.
This is an African American case.
Right. We don't just
Just to be clear.
that often, because that is something that I think about, because because remember we're talking from an unwed perspective here. When you have a child, an unwed, you do try to perceive your future, and that is that you may settle down one day, and the opportunity for somebody else who will in fact love and care for that child will need to adopt that child, because the perception in America is you try to create the stability for a child,
Right.
And so you may have to ask a father to terminate his rights. And that's well within the rights of the mother to do that, though, right?
You can ask.
You can ask.
Regardless of how this father feels about this child, because we brought a child into the world. We're not married. We're not going to have a relationship, and I may want to have some. That could be the stability that's ahead for a family. So is it well within the rights of the mom to then say, "Hey, terminate your rights so that somebody else can then adopt this child"? I know you don't advocate for that, because you advocate for the father. The
child will not be who they need to
but
be.
But then does it become a situation of one father having to prove stability over another father? This is a third party in this situation. Okay, we come back, more scenarios. This is what happens when you bring children into the world and you don't plan to ever be together again. How do we get to that point where you made a child, but you don't ever want to see that person again?
And he has to pay child support,
he has to pay child support.
Let's stick to the topic.
Deal.
Yeah.
It's a lot. News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
Call us at 404-892-2703 on News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
Hi, this is Michael Collier, the funniest man on the planet. When I'm in Atlanta and when I want to get the buzz, I listen to DryerBuzz on News and Talk Radio 1380 WAOK. They get down like that.
Call us at 404-892-2703 on News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
News and Talk 1380, it's DryerBuzz on WAOK, where you get a double dose of buzz. You got to make sure to join us Saturday from 6 to 8 and come back with us on Sunday from 1 to 4. Here in this last hour, we want to definitely take some more calls, 404-892-2703. We know that topics like this run the gamut, which is why we've decided for the rest of the year, we're going to make fourth Sunday our fatherhood, hashtag parenthood, motherhood. We're going to try and really address issues that are in the best interest of the child. One of the callers earlier threw out the ego of the mother and child as a property. Before we went to break, we were talking, we hinted on termination of rights, because the question we asked today is hashtag child support. Is it fighting words or nah? Because I've ran into a couple of adults who dealt with this issue over the years, and it just seemed to be a trauma point for them. The minute they start talking about it again, even though the kids are grown and they pretty much got grandkids now, when you talk to somebody that's had issues with child support, it's a lifelong, not regret, but emotion. It's a lifelong emotion. It's a very hyper emotional issue, and language is very much a part of it. Law is very much a part of it. So there's a way in which things have to be said. There is a way in which our emotions hear it. Like Torri got a little emotion. We talked a little bit about Chris Brown during the break, and I was like, that's one father I'd probably like to see terminate his right. I said it, that maybe he should allow a stepfather to go ahead and come on in and legitimate this child. But because the other side of that, if a person does not want to, because sometimes we will, and Tony, I'm coming right to you, but sometimes we might have an individual who does not want to pay child support. Is the alternative for that is for them to terminate rights?
Yes, if they terminate rights, then
I know a lot of court systems frown on that because we're looking for stability. But if there is a situation where there is a stepfather or the opportunity for more stability for the child, do we allow a father to terminate rights?
If he terminates rights so that another person can step in and be the father, then that father will become obligated to pay child support.
Because we saw that in the reality show with Kim and Croy. Croy Bierman, her baby's father, it was two of them. Baby's fathers terminated their rights so that Croy could adopt her two daughters. So they will all in one household have the same name, Torri,
and gain inheritance.
See,
inheritance.
That's the part
another
that
type
we,
of inheritance.
Yes.
Right. That's the part that we miss in this, the best interest of the child, because we end up talking so much about the ego of the mother or the resentment of the father, is that this is really all about gaining inheritance, even though many people don't leave a lot.
Thank you, because I was just about to say
but
that.
that's what we're talking about, entitlement, what the child is literally entitled to.
But what if the child's inheritance is wholeness?
Okay. I'm gonna let you explain that, but Tony in Ackworth has a child support question, so let's go ahead and get Tony on the line. Tony, what's your comment or question?
Hey, how you ladies doing on DryerBuzz? How's your guest?
Awesome.
Good, thank you.
Okay, I was calling to tell a short story and also ask a question. I have been a part of the child support system with two of my children. I'm not married. All women that seek child support are bitter and angry and using the children to make you miserable, like a lot of people, a lot of us guys assume.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, although some of us do. Now, a quick story about my situation, and maybe you ladies could tell some other people what to do in this case, because maybe they don't know. I pay child support for my children. Me and the mothers, we have a very good relationship. One day I get a letter from child support saying that my child support case was canceled. Well, being the smart man that I am, you know what? I'm going to keep making these payments because I know something's getting ready to come out of the hat.
Good for you.
So I make the payments. So I continue to make the payments. But what I did was I, directly from my checking account, had the check sent to the mother in the exact amount of what the child support order said, not what DHS was sending them. I turn around about a month later. I get a letter saying that I needed to come in. They were going to suspend my license for non-payment. So now I'm ready. I have all of my receipts. I go down. I had to go to the office 3 times. And the third time, I even took the mothers with me. We went in. They actually did an audit, and they came back and said, Mr. Tony, we got a problem. You paid too much. Oh, okay, good. I paid too much. They stopped the order because they said that the mothers wouldn't cooperate, because when they sent out the letter for modification, they didn't want any more money. Well, they shouldn't want any more money because I paid the child support and I paid the other things that my children need, private schools, sports, dance, that sort of thing. Well, long story short, they say that I've overpaid, and now I get another letter saying that we would like to garnish your check for more money because you're behind. So one day you go into the office, you're ahead, and the next day you're still behind. Even after I showed you the check stubs that I continue to make these payments. And also after you said I was ahead, and neither of the parents are on a public assistance. So what should a person that gets caught with that do? Because one more thing, in the office when you go there, it makes it seem like it's not about the child. It makes it seem like it's a business. Because every door in that office had a sign on it that said, show me the money. And I have pictures of that. That was on the door. So to a father going in for child support, the first thing he sees when he goes into the office of each one of the counselor's office is, show me the money, posted on the front door. That makes it, you automatically go from, well, let's see what I can go and do, to this is getting ready to be a hostile situation. So what should future parents or fathers that have not yet gotten to something like that, what should they do?
Precious.
Well, I would advise to do exactly what you did. Make sure you keep up with all of your receipts. If you make payments directly to the mother, obviously you should, if you're mailing it, you should mail it certified or have some sort of proof that you mailed the payments, and also use a cashier's check or money order, some way for you to track the money that you sent. So that was definitely good of you to do that. When you're dealing with DHS, which is the administrative way to deal with child support, I would advise anytime you're having an issue to try to get in front of the administrative judge, because you may be dealing with the agency people, the people who are working there, the staff, and they might not be able to advise you or to assist you the way that you should be assisted. And it may just seem like a quick operation, kind of what you said. It just sounds like a business. But once you get in front of a judge, it won't feel quite that dry. And a judge will definitely help make it a more sound decision for you.
Right. Okay.
Is it?
Because in my situation, I didn't go to the judge when they upped my child support. I'm going to be honest. And my situation is different than a lot of guys. I took the standpoint years ago that they can't break me. It's nothing you can do to break me financially or break my spirits, because what good am I being wealthy and my children are poor? So if you give them the money, you give them the money. And that's all great. So I have no problem with that. So I didn't go in front of a judge. I just got tired of fighting and threw up my hands and say, you know what, I'm done with it. But I know where the money's going. It's not being blown. I know exactly what's going on with it, so I'm good with it. But another parent in that situation, you know, they'll take that, and even after they show them the information, you know, and like what you said was paramount, go in front of the judge, because had I went in front of the judge with both mothers there saying, hey, here's my checks that he sent me, and me standing there with every transaction, I mean, and it wasn't like, you know, transferred over to your account. I had a check printed out and actually mailed to the parent, so that the parent had to sign it.
He did his thank you so much, Tony. He did his due diligence.
And we have to also know, when you go into a child support office, always ask to see the same person. That's the other part that I've noticed. They shuffle them from one person to the next who is just reading notes in a computer. But if you keep it personal and you are talking to the same person every time, that helps. I have a guy who I make sure that he does it every time he goes to his child support office.
When we come back to on the other side of the break, I want to talk about using or having to using these other agencies to intervene in these cases. Is it better? It seems like it's good administratively sometimes, but what's a way around that parents can do this together? All right, News and Talk 1380 404-892-2703. Phone lines are filling up with questions about child support. # child support. News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
#HairSheBuzz. Get the buzz behind the buzz with Yalanda Lattimore with DryerBuzz on News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Call us at 404-892-2703 on News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Go now to DryerBuzz.com and follow @DryerBuzz on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. It's all about the buzz on News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Call us at 404-892-2703 on News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
If you'll sign this statement, it shows your income and your expenses, Mr. Marshall, and get it back to me within 2 weeks. You understand?
Yes, I understand all that, but listen, I gotta ask you something because I gotta think about this thing. What happens if I lose my job?
If you're married, you must apply for welfare.
Oh, I must apply for welfare?
You must apply for welfare. Otherwise, this would constitute a misuse of ADC funds.
Which is fraud.
You understand? If the husband's unwilling or unable to make a contribution equal to what it would cost him to maintain an independent living arrangement, he must apply for welfare. Do you understand? Otherwise, this would constitute a misuse of ADC funds.
Which is fraud.
Which is misappropriation.
Which is fraud.
Right, okay, now wait a minute. Now, if I marry this lady, I want to make things better. But if I spend $1 on it, you're going to deduct it from her, right? If I want to buy a little something extra, you're going to deduct it. And I better report every penny I spend, or else I'm a crook. Okay, now you say if I lose my job, I must apply for welfare because I can't just sit around eating the government's biscuit.
Which is fraud.
Because that's a fraud, right?
News and Talk 1380 WAOK. It's DryerBuzz on WAOK. My absolute favorite movie that was from Claudine and we had a caller. He was talking about dealing with these different agencies, and we want to know in this child support case, in any child support case, how does the agencies get involved? And I know we got a little bit more than 30 minutes left in this, but I want to also talk about, you mentioned the share and the incomes, because child support is absolutely supposed to be supplementing income that's not in the domicile where the child is living. Right. Mm-hmm. So we want to know, first and foremost, how do these agencies get involved? How is it best that we can keep the agencies out? Is it better to keep the agency out? Because here we had a young man who was taking care of his kids using one of the agencies and still ended up with different kind of situations. So help us out with that.
My take is it's best to leave them out. Mediation, coming to the table with an agreement between both parents, shows that you can work together, co-parent, make sure that the children are happy and stable, not just financially, but emotionally as well. And so that is my take. I just truly believe that if you can mediate, have a mediator, they supply them down at the courthouse. People don't realize when you go through custody and visitation, mediation is a part of it, people. So why not just do mediation? Right. Submit that paperwork to the court, have the judge sign it, and keep it moving versus going through all of this stuff that costs you money. Sorry, Precious, I'm not trying to take you and put you out of a job. I'm not, because I know there are people who are going to need you anyway. Right. But this is the thing. Why go through all of that when you're going to have to mediate anyway?
And at the same time, in every part of the process, you can be represented by an attorney.
Yes.
Because a lot of times people get contacted by these agencies and they feel like they're going for the best interest of the child, they're going to be fair to both parties, and that's not always the case. Absolutely. So tell us, how do you keep an attorney involved in this?
No matter how you're approached about child support, whether it comes from a superior court or whether it comes from the administrative process with DHS, I would definitely advise you to seek an attorney. Either route, you'll need assistance throughout the process. I think that a lot of the fathers that come into my office, when they receive a letter from DHS, they think that it's going to be an equal-handed process. They'll think it'll be fair, and they think that,
because clearly dealing with anybody other than mother is the best thing to do, right?
Right.
And I hear that all the time. This isn't fair. Fair. And I'm like, hold on. We're not kids anymore. Right. Fair is not even in this vocabulary. This sentence, it doesn't exist.
And they get this documentation. They don't understand it fully, but they look at it as, this is something I have to go to, I have to respond to. And then they meet these people there and they think it's something that they can handle on their own.
Right.
My advice is definitely to seek an attorney, even when you're dealing with DHS. Not only that, but there may be other avenues that can be used to establish child support outside of DHS, because there are courts that have superiority to DHS.
Right. And even have an attorney, even when you're dealing with a positive mom.
Absolutely.
And one of the things Attorney Precious said earlier is know that there are attorneys available at the different DHS offices that can assist you. It's a legal aid situation. They can assist you. They can help you through the process. You know, I don't always trust some people. If you work for DHS, I don't know if I'm really going to trust you. Help me with my paperwork. But they are available. You just need to know they're available.
All right, let's take some calls. Let's go to Mark. He's got a child support question. Thank you, Mark, for supporting the show. What's your comments?
Hey, ladies, how y'all doing tonight?
Awesome.
Great.
Good,
How are
thank you.
Good. You know what? I really didn't have a child support question, but I did have a child support experience.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my ex-wife, we were married almost 10 years. And when we decided to get divorced, we actually sat down at the dinner table and talked about child support. And I asked her a question. I said, okay, what's fair? And she knew at the time she made more money. And so she wrote down, it was almost like a business meeting. She wrote it down on the paper. She wrote a digit down on the paper, and she handed it to me. I looked at it. I said, okay, I can do that. And she said, I'm doing this for two reasons. She said, number one, because I know I make more money than you. And she said, number two, I'm not trying to humiliate you. And I was like, okay. And for the last almost 6 years, I pay child support every week. And if if there's something that comes, arise and I can't pay, I'll let her know, say, hey, something's come up, can't pay today, I'll double up on it next week, blah, 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 blah. But I know that I'm in the rare. And when I hear bros, talk about their child support situations, I swear, my heart goes out to them. I'm like, wow. I can't even imagine going to court, because she never, her intent was never, ever to take me to child support court. She just said, listen, we in this together, we're parents. And what's best for her? That was her only thing. What's best for her? And based on what you make and based on what I make, this is what I think we can do.
Right.
And I looked at the numbers. I'm like,
it was fair. Was it fair?
It was better than going to court. And excuse my phrase, was having some white man tell me what I gotta pay, as opposed to having a woman I spent 10 years with saying, "Hey, this is what I think you can contribute." Right. And so, and even when I need to go, for instance, this week, not this week, but Father's Day, she called me. She said, "Hey, I think it would be a great idea. You surprise her on Father's Day." I'm like, well, yeah, I think it's a great idea. She said, hey, I'll help, if you need help with the plane ticket, I got you. You guys are not in the same state? Well, I live in Georgia. About 4 years ago, they moved to St. Louis. Okay. And that kind of changed, that changed our whole dynamic in terms of me being able to see my daughter and everything, but that's a whole other story. Right. But yeah, even in that, she's been accommodating. That's good. That's good to hear. Thank you so much, Mark. And that's going to be one of the topics we will address too. All the fact that when parents end up living in other states, though, it's happening a lot more. He talked about the fact that they were able to mediate. I do want to get through a number of calls. If we can go ahead and get Paul in, and then we'll get some comments from our attorney and doctor on deck. Paul, what's your comment in Marietta?
Yes, how are you? I just wanted to make a quick comment, actually relative to a bad experience with child support. Actually, I had two situations, and both unmarried. The first situation I had was my son was 1 year old, and I was a police officer at the time. I was from Chicago. And I went into court, and I showed the court a means test, and I was able to acquire custody, and I was getting child support for 18 years, and now he's 19, and he's in college, and everything is all good. All right, so that was a great experience in my judgment. Now, it's fair to the mother, and she always had visitation, so it was always a problem. But I had a second instance that really turned into a nightmare. It was a situation where I went out on a date with a young woman, and just come to find out a couple of years later, I get a notice in the mail saying that I owe for child support. Well, I didn't we never had a blood test. At least I didn't make the blood test back about 17 years ago. So there was a default judgment entered against Okay? And in which case, before I moved out here to Georgia from Illinois, I tried to clean up all, back, anything so I wouldn't have any. So I tried to motion the case up to ask the court if I could have a paternity test. And they denied it. They denied it.
Hold it right there, because you getting deep on us. So we want to come back to Paul on the other
fatherhood.
side. Default fatherhood. All right, and also we got James Holden from Texas. So we're gonna get both of you guys your questions and comments on the other side, and let Attorney Felder and Dr. Barton tackle those. And then we're talking about child support. Hashtag child support. Is it fighting words or not? 404-892-2703. News and Talk 1380. It's Dryer Buzz on WAOK.
Call us at 404-892-2703 on News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Breaking news.
Hey, this is Pastor Raphael Warnock, and one of my favorite things to do is to listen to DryerBuzz on WAOK.
Call us at 404-892-2703 on News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
It's DryerBuzz on WAOK. A very interesting Sunday. We've decided fourth Sunday we're going to talk about parenthood, and today we're talking about child support. And Paul was in the midst of his story, so let me see if I can bring him back on. I think, Paul, is that you? Okay,
yes, ma'am. I just want to make a long story. Yes, I just want to make a long story short. And in which case, there was a default judgment entered because I never had a blood test. So I tried to motion the case up and ask the court for a paternity test so I can find out, because they've been taking my retirement pension. They've taken my, they take your tax refunds. They take, so.
But wait, this is for a child you didn't know you had.
I didn't know I had. Not only did I know I had, I don't even know it was mine or not. Because I missed the initial blood test when he was a child. So I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna find out if it's mine. So they denied it. They said once the administrative hearing is done and you miss the initial paternity test, you cannot motion it up for a blood test under any circumstances. So you just got to pay whether it's yours or not. So now they've gone into my bank account and took out $1,300 the other day out of my bank account. Now I can't pay my bills. Okay, so what they're doing is they follow you all over the country. They track you down on your jobs, and they're taking money out of your bank account. They freeze your money out of your bank account, and they don't even know if the child is yours. This is the state doing this. Okay. So I put in a motion for a Chapter 13 to see if I can get a stay, because I did it once before, and they stayed those funds. They put those funds back into my account, and I wouldn't took my funds out. The problem is I don't know if the child is mine, because the way that I met the young lady, it was like under some strange circumstances, so she's going to have to necessarily be mine.
Y'all went on a date, but thank you so much, Paul. And listen carefully, because our attorney and Dr. Barton are going to comment, because we talked about that, fighting the perception that it looks like he didn't want to be involved, even though he didn't know. But we talked about that earlier. It's like sometimes you can come into this situation and you have to fight the perception that you didn't want to be involved. And so where does something like that start? How do you go from going out on a date with somebody to all of this?
Well, I mean, all I can say is if you have an opportunity to get in front of a judge and explain your situation, that's your best bet.
How much are the judges willing to listen to this? Because, like I said, we are in a different climate. We see making faces, right? It feels like we're in a different climate with this thing. And Torri, you were saying this because more people have access to information today than anything else. So their opinions are out there, but I don't know.
That's a tough one, because we've seen the national news on all these default fathers. I am constantly in contact with attorney Taisha Elam from Houston with the dad who overpaid that whole thing.
That was the term he threw out, default fathers.
Yes,
so explain that. What does that mean?
Well, like he said, he didn't show up for the hearing. He didn't show up for the paternity test. So
because he didn't know.
Maybe he didn't know. He didn't explain that. I don't know.
Well, let's go back to this, because you talked about you had a mother who was publishing in the wrong state anyway, because she knew that was going to be to her
And then
benefit.
when he didn't show up, like if they had a court case and he didn't show up, her husband would have gotten
but
to be
most
able to
most
adopt.
of our dads aren't out there reading the legal sections
How
in the
about that?
newspapers, okay? And they're certainly not reading the legal reporters
Right.
To see
Looking
if
for a
anybody has
publication. Yeah.
like, is my name in here this week?
Yes.
Which we should, but I mean, how many of you go out to and where do they find this information? It's in the one ads. It's in the advertising section of the newspaper, and it's called the legal section.
Yes.
And when you go
courthouses,
when you seeking somebody, you publish an ad for them to respond to, and if they don't, you've satisfied a legal obligation of letting them know.
Yes.
Okay. And so I'm looking for you. I've got a child by you. You need to come to court. They don't show up.
And that's one of the steps in legitimation.
Okay.
If you don't know where the other party is, you have to go through
You
this
have
whole
to publish
process. And if they don't know,
Okay. So
you get a default judgment. We know what that means.
So on my Facebook page, I need to start sharing legal sections. So
there you go, Attorney Precious.
You
got a new blog.
Is that right? Is that a new service I need? I need to start blogging.
It might be pretty helpful.
Yes, it will be.
But okay, now, so you're looking through the legal section and you do see your name. Such and such court is looking for you to legitimize, and what does it say? How does an ad read?
It's a notice, and it basically it'll have the caption, and it'll tell them what the lawsuit is about, and when
so
they need to respond.
It says there's a lawsuit, not necessarily.
Well, yeah, because it's called service by publication, and you can use that for a number of different types of lawsuits. And as she said, legitimation is just one of them.
And this usually happens before somebody garnishes your check.
Right.
Okay.
But the thing about service by publication is you have to ask the court to do it. Right. So you can't just automatically do it. It will cost extra money. You have to motion the court, and the court is usually pretty diligent in making sure that you've basically exhausted every avenue possible to try to serve this person, meaning you've already tried to attempt personal service with a sheriff or a process server, and that failed. You've called friends, family. You basically have to give the court an affidavit that you've done all that.
Let's go back to this because it sounds like an income issue. It seems like those who have access to resources fare better in this. Either you can mediate with the mom, you fare better in this, or you have access to resources, can hire an attorney, an advocate. You fare better in these situations. You wanted to talk share about the share, because what we understanding child support is, like, you hear people throw out, well, you got to pay 30% of your income and this, that, and the other. A lot of people are in these situations where there is no income for the other half. So how does that impact child support as well? Talk about that before we take our other calls.
Big deal. One of our callers, he made a statement that he sat down with his wife, and she said, well, I make more money than you, so let's do what's best for her. That is the best way to go if you can. I want to start by saying that.
Okay.
If you can
try
sit down and try to do that,
situations.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Because if you don't, and one of you makes significantly more than the other, then you'll be responsible for that pro rata share of your income combined. And when I say pro rata share, basically now in Georgia, they don't have it where one parent pays a percentage of their income. It's not like that. What they do is they combine the mother's income with the father's income, and then they come to a gross monthly income. And then they go to a chart, basically, and using how many children you have, they match that up with the amount of money you make per month together, and they come up with a presumptive amount. That presumptive amount can be something that you find completely unreasonable,
right?
But that's what the court is going to presume you pay together. Then they'll come to a pro rata share. So they consider how much of the money you make as a percentage and how much of the money the mother makes as a percentage, and then that's your pro rata share. I mean, it goes on and on into adjusted income and everything, but the consequence of that is if one of the parents makes significantly more money than the other parent, then they'll have to pay a much larger percentage of what that presumptive amount is. So say, for instance, the presumptive amount is $1,000, and you make 90% of the income,
give the percentage,
then you'll have to pay $900
of that $1,000.
$1,000.
Wow. How did you decide that this is what you want to do with your life? deal with these families and child support.
And I find that interesting in what you said, because when you're looking at that, fathers will call me and say, I'm paying 70% of my gross income. And people are saying, no, child support is no more than 30 to 40%. I'm like, in what world? We have decided in shared parenting. What she's talking about is shared parenting. And that's what it is.
Right. All right. We have time. We're going to grab James right quick. Let's, James, I need you to come in, give us a comment. We'll hold you over if we need to. It depends on how deep your story is.
I'm going to make it real quick.
Okay.
Would you recommend therapy for people, situations you've been talking about? Because it is a weaker and difficult generation.
We recommend therapy in every situation just because of the trauma. I mean, this is a trauma situation. And speaking of therapy, I mean, Torri is an advocate. She has an organization that deals with this from a fatherhood perspective. So talk a little bit about where he can get some help.
Right, because one of the tools that we have to use is the therapeutic and the counseling side. You are going through different emotions, trauma, and all these different things, but you still have to parent your child. So the parents need the therapy, the children need the therapy, and anybody else involved. Right. Sometimes the grandparents
even
need
the person
therapy.
Hosting the radio show needs some therapy after hearing all this.
And you need to have that conversation about your own internal issues. One of the things I have found is a lot of the mothers come from broken homes, and a lot of the fathers are coming from broken homes, and nobody initially dealt with the brokenness they felt before they even had children.
Before they went on a date in some kind of way after dinner, a baby came. Go ahead.
One more question. Also, would you recommend therapy for Todd? Because I don't understand that episode. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your support.
Right. Thank you. No. All right. He said...
Oh, wow.
Well, I appreciate him listening
Praise
from the
the
beginning
Lord.
of the show. Can we thank James for listening from the beginning of the show?
Top of the hour.
He went way back there. Well, Margaret and Sneed are holding. So Margaret and Sneed, this next segment is yours. And Attorney Precious Felder and Dr. Barton are still here with us. And we're going to take this thing to the end. News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
Go now to DryerBuzz.com and follow @DryerBuzz on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. It's all about the buzz on News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Call us at 404-892-2703 on News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
Yo, this is Tommy Noble. Make sure you check me out on the stage near you. When I want to get the buzz behind the buzz, I listen to DryerBuzz and News on Talk Radio 1380 WAOK, baby.
Call us at 404-892-2703 on News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
Okay, you're back with DryerBuzz on WAOK. Now, remember, the conversation doesn't stop here. We're going to be tweeting about this one. Attorney Felder is online, as well as Torri, and we're going to give you some handles on that. Let me go ahead and get Margaret and Sneed and their comments out the way, and then we'll get ready to wrap up. Margaret, go ahead for me.
Yes, I came in to the program late, and I think I heard the question asked as to how men come into the child support system. I worked in public assistance for over 30 years, and a lot of those cases come from what was formerly AFDC, now TANF. When mother comes in and applies for that program, and if she's approved for the program, that father is considered legally in debt to the state for that payment. And that father is referred to the Office of Child Support Recovery to pay child support.
Well, is he responsible for a portion of it or all of it?
Now, that's worked out with the Office of Child Support. The law says that when the parent applies for a child and that child is approved and to be in need, that father is considered legally in debt to the state, and they have to refer them to the Office of Child Support Recovery.
But see, the interesting thing here for that is that's something that he has no control over.
None.
Whether or not she works, because we got to remember, we said at the very beginning, the dad has no rights. But I mean, he can't control whether or not she goes and applies for aid or not, because a lot of times. Go ahead.
The kicker here is, and I have told people this many times, if that parent is going to pay child support, always pay over the TANF amount to keep her off of public assistance and keep that child off of public assistance and keep you from being tied up with DHS.
Because it seems like he should probably be able to match the what she's
right.
getting
Find out
in
what
those
the
benefits.
TANF limit is. If it's for one child, and I'm just throwing this out as an example, if the TANF limit for one child is $235, you pay $335. That keeps her out of the system.
Because she has to go in and report that she's receiving that. They're
That's exactly right.
Right. There you go. Thank you so much, Margaret.
Okay.
And I tell you what. Yeah. Thanks, Margaret. We remember I said we're gonna keep this thing going. We got. Oh my goodness.
Keeping my mouth shut.
Right. Sneed. Let's get Sneed's comments in right quick so our attorney and doctor can follow him. Go ahead, Sneed.
Hey, how y'all doing, Yalanda?
We doing good, Sneed.
Hey, Yalanda, I noticed, when you going, I bet when you go in a lot of these child support offices, you see a load of women working up in them offices. I already noticed a load of women, and on top of that, I hate to say, it, but a load of black women on top of that. I mean, now the reason why I say that, I mean, we already know women are evil. They're evil as crap. We know that.
But okay, but.
I mean, I'm not talking about y'all.
But it's county.
Thank you.
Sneed, it's county based. So if you went in one particular county, you may see black women. You go in another particular county, you may see Hispanic women. I think in another county, you may see Asian women. I mean, because women go get services where they live. I just need you to stay out of all these different neighborhoods.
He's talking about the women in the office, working in the office.
No, we don't. We never know what Sneed is talking about.
Yolanda, you won't cover it up. I don't care what. but I'm just saying, see, y'all women, y'all can avoid a lot of that stuff if y'all learn how to pick a man.
Pick a man.
And, keep your dress down. And keep the legs closed. Period. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, because majority of the time you go out on a date with a lot of these women, they're looking to see how fat the man's pocket is. And
Sneed,
that's
I'm gonna stop you right there because you really did give some good advice. Keep your dress down, keep your legs closed. That's probably the best advice.
Dr. Barton agrees with you.
Okay, all right. Now we got to get ready. We got to get ready to get out of here because we do have Joyce Hotel has a live broadcast coming up, so you want to stay around for love and relationships that you can hear on Sundays. And we're gonna take this conversation to social media, where we started it and brought it to the radio. So Torri, tell everybody where to tweet you because you are an advocate for fathers.
I am.
Let's not overlook that. You are an advocate for fathers.
And very quickly, when we were talking about the inheritance piece and I threw out, what if the inheritance is wholeness?
Wholeness, okay.
When I met my father, he didn't have any money to give me. He has 11 other children. My father didn't do it with a whole bunch of different women, but I still have 11 other siblings. So what am I getting from that? I didn't get anything. But what I did get was this. Him calling me one Monday morning saying, clear your schedule. I need to talk to you. And then he's talking to me about who he sees me as, the things I can do to be better, and the avenue that he felt God was leading me on. Changed my life. That was Monday. Wednesday, he went into a coma. Sunday, he died. And so that was that blessing that you read about in the Bible that you get. And that was the wholeness moment for me. Wow. And I will never forget that. Now, was he nice and kind and loving? Yes. But there was a moment where he took that to the next level. And so that's why I said, what if the inheritance is wholeness? That's key. So how you can reach me is Twitter. I am Torri J. And then we have our Twitter handle for the fatherless generation is we, the letter R, fatherless. And we can be reached at 1-888-707-7997.
All right. And Attorney Precious Felder, your docket is going to fill up.
I hope so.
Because we have some people, and here's the thing. Everything that we talked about, everything we're going to continue to talk about, every aspect of that, you can have legal representation, and you should. And how should they follow up with you?
You can follow up with me by visiting my website, which is PF-Law LLC. You can also follow me on Instagram. It's PF_Law LLC. And you can call my office at any time, 404-478-7207, or shoot me an email, pflawoffices@gmail.com.
And that's the law offices of Precious Felder.
Yes.
And ladies, I need you back on fourth Sunday, so put that on your calendar as well, because as you can see, I mean, we've only touched the surface. Basically, our goal today was just to kind of get a definition of child support. Do you think we did that? Did we give them a definition? I know there's a lot.
We both took the deep breath at the same time.
There's a lot of emotion in it. There's a lot of, even though you can categorize different cases, they all seem to be different because and it should be that way. But before we go out of here, specifically, naturally, as the law defines, child support is what, Precious?
Child support is an obligation of the non-custodial parent, and that is by law a certain amount of money, and it's governed by the child support guidelines. And if you don't want to go through that process that's been established by someone that does not know your child and does not know you personally, then you should either go through mediation or just have that conversation personally with the mother or the father.
So you can handle this without going through a court system.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about the gentleman who called earlier. They handled it that way. And I say kudos to them, and kudos to my husband tweeting me who did the same thing. Just pay it. Do whatever you need to do. My husband always says you got to pay.
All right. Now, the show is actually going to play back tonight at midnight. So I'm going to need you guys online because I'm sure there's going to be more questions. And also the show will archive at DryerBuzz.com, where all of our shows, if you've missed any of the shows, you can go to DryerBuzz.com. And also, I'll tell you what, let's join everybody on the Facebook, the WAOK Facebook fan page. I'll put their information in the video clips that we share. Guess what? You just got the buzz behind the buzz. I'm Yalanda with an A Lattimore. I'm the editor of DryerBuzz.com. We'll be back next week. If you have child support, parenting, motherhood, baby mama, all of that, any kind of drama or trauma, do know that the fourth Sunday, we're going to stack the deck with some help and some resources for you. I appreciate everybody listening and calling and supporting the show. And we'll be back with you next weekend for another double dose of Buzz. Saturday at 6. Sundays at 1. News and Talk 1380. It's DryerBuzz on WAOK.
Get DryerBuzz on SoundCloud and YouTube to hear snippets from the show. It's all about the buzz with DryerBuzz on News and Talk 1380 WAOK.